The Trap Set will always be available for free, but we rely on donations from our listeners. Please visit our website at thetrapset.net and click Donate. Subscribe to our show on iTunes, and if you enjoy what you hear, give us a review.
This episode of The Trap Set is brought to you in part by Colectivo Coffee, handmade coffee since 1993. Check them out online at colectivo.com. This is Joe Wong. Welcome to The Trap Set, where each week we explore the lives of drummers. I want to play something for you. You're hearing the band Tortoise, featuring my guest, John Herndon, on drums. Improvised music and punk rock share a similar sense of rebellion and commitment. Tortoise was one of the first bands to explore the intersection of the two sometimes insular styles. Formed in Chicago in the early 90s, Tortoise drew inspiration from the city's richly diverse musical landscape and created a unique synthesis of punk, jazz, dub, prog rock, electronica, and various world musics. The group was at the forefront of an influential movement labeled post-rock by critics that includes like-minded artists like The Sea and Cake, Euphone, and Gastro del Sol. But Tortoise is just one of several innovative bands with which Herndon is associated. His other projects have included Isotope 217, Five Style, Star Liquor, and The Poster Children. Recently, John moved to Los Angeles, where he continues to play regular gigs and is sought after as a studio musician. He's valued for his powerful groove, distinctive tone, and his ability to bridge the gap between disparate musical worlds. In the several months since we recorded this interview, I've gotten to know John a lot better, and I've also found him to be a warm, charming guy and a great conversationalist. Now here's our interview with John Herndon. Did you get into music at an early age?
I did. I guess I started playing the drums at, I don't know, age 12 or something. But before that, I played clarinet, and I told everybody that I was a drummer. I would just straight out lie.
Did you feel like you were a drummer? Like it was who you were, your identity, before you even played the drums?
For sure, yes.
Why?
I don't know. I was just following. I think it was something that was calling me. I just was like being led. Like,
were your parents pretty hip?
I mean, I grew up in a commune.
Oh wow! Okay, we need to talk about that. They started it.
They started it in Cambridge.
Did they go to Harvard?
My Uncle Bud went to Harvard.
Okay, so your parents were intellectuals, and they started a commune. What was the founding principle of the commune?
The commune is called the Grateful Union Family. I think it's Grateful Union Family Trust. And they were craftspeople. They were hand weavers, and they ran a store in Cambridge where they sold really beautiful handmade tools for crafting, handmade looms, these beautiful looms from Finland called Toika looms, spinning wheels, and wool and yarn and organic dyeing things like that. But then my dad had a bookstore in the back of where the craft store was. The store is called Earth Guild, and he had like a sort of metaphysical bookstore.
So were you homeschooled on the commune?
No.
No. Okay.
No, I went to a weird private school in kind of an experimental school in Cambridge called Fairweather Street School. And then when I moved to North Carolina, I went to just the local school, and it was tiny. There were like 70 kids, kindergarten through 8th grade.
Was it a pretty happy existence?
I'm happy that I ended up there.
At the time, were you unhappy about it?
My early childhood was a little rocky.
Okay.
And then I ended up on the commune at around age 5.
Okay. Do you have kids now?
I have 2.
What traditions do you take from your childhood and pass down, and then what are some things that you are doing differently?
Well, it's completely different because I'm divorced.
Okay.
And I live, and I get my kids like twice a week.
Okay.
I pick them up from school every day. So they're back and forth between their mother and my place. So in that respect, it's a completely different experience for them than it was for me. There was always people around. I grew up in the mountains where like there was no locks on the door, and it was up a mile up a dirt road, and I could just run around, and we live in LA, and it's like I can't like take my eyes off my children. It's totally different now. I think.
So you say you started playing drums when you were about 12?
Mm-hmm.
Did you get a drum kit from your folks? How did it come about?
There was a guy who lived down the road from us named Dave Schaefer, and he had a drum kit and like a Fender Rhodes piano and an acoustic piano, and there was like this sort of community of people who had moved to North Carolina or had grown up there, who were, I guess, for lack of a better term, kind of hippies, and a lot of people were musicians, and there was a rotating potluck that would happen every Sunday, and often there were jam sessions. Sometimes it was more sort of traditional music, like Appalachian folk tunes or whatever, with acoustic guitars and banjos and that kind of thing. But then when I would land at Dave's place, then it was just like, wah-wah guitars and and just like, freak out like space jams.
Can you remember the first day that you sat down and played on it? Did you have like a magical experience that sticks with you?
No, I can't.
Okay.
I can't actually remember that. I mean, I remember playing on that thing a lot, but the first time, I'd have to dig in there to find it. But no.
When was the first time you played with other musicians? Did you get to jam with Dave?
I did. Yeah, I jammed with Dave and this guy John Brown who played electric guitar. Like at those sessions. Fairly regularly. And then there was a little crew in my grammar school of some kids who played guitar, and so we started kind of playing in this kid's garage, and we were just sort of like jamming whatever. Sometimes it was like Molly Hatchet tunes, some AC/DC, some Lynyrd Skynyrd, it was like southern jams, and that lasted for a little while, and then I got asked to be in this band, I guess around age 15, that was a regular super working band, like people that were my friends of my parents, like my parents' age.
Like a top 40 kind of band?
More like old time rock and roll, and then but that we also did some like Les Paul and Mary Ford tunes.
Wow, great. So you moved to Chicago when you're 18?
I guess I was 19.
19?
Yeah.
What was the scene like when you got there?
It was like there was a lot. It was a huge city, and there was a lot of scenes going on. But I guess the sort of punk rock scene that I kind of started hanging out in was I would go see, Naked Raygun were playing at the time, Big Black. There's a band called Out of Order. So I would see that kind of stuff.
Did you get a regular gig in Chicago like what you'd had in North Carolina? Did you find a professional band to play with right away?
No.
So what were you doing for work?
I was I waited tables at this little diner, and then I was washing dishes at a bar, and that kind of led to me becoming a bartender. And then I worked at this punk club called The Exit for a couple of years, and then I got a job at a bar called the Rainbow Club.
Mm-hmm.
And then I worked there I still work there if I go back to Chicago, and I'll pick up shifts sometimes, but for like the last 25 years I've been working there.
When did you meet the Poster Children folks?
I don't know. It must have been like 1990, 89.
89?
Something like that.
And at the time you hadn't started Tortoise yet, right?
I think that Poster Children happened first.
Okay.
And then sort of during Poster Children, I can't actually remember. Doug and I were playing a little bit together, but I did a lot of touring with the Poster Children. We made that record, Tool of the Man, and then we toured a lot. And after a super long stretch, I came back, and I was thinking about it while I was on tour, and just thinking about how important Tortoise, or the beginnings of that band, I don't even want to know if we had a name yet, how important that was to me. And I didn't want to be away from it, and be on the road with the Poster Children. I wanted to be home and commit to putting my energy into that. So I
because that was something that was more creatively resonant with you, or something that you had more control over creatively?
It seemed more along the lines of what I was hearing in my head, and like they were my best friends, mm-hmm. Or Doug was, one of my best friends and playing, that seemed much more desirable to focus on than doing the Poster Children. That was, doing the Poster Children was super fun too. We had great times, but this Tortoise was more where my head.
How did that band operate? Did you practice all the time?
Yeah, so people would come in with even just a real skeletal idea, and then we would build from that. And we weren't practicing. I guess we were we were playing a lot, but it never really seemed like, now we have to go and practice, and it never seemed like it was it was at all forced, or like we had to adhere to any kind of schedule. We moved into a loft together fairly soon after we started the band. We got a big space, like 4,000 square feet, and we had to build out, and we built like a soundproof box and built little bedrooms and sort of revolved our time around being in the box and playing together.
Was it hard to get along after a while?
No.
It all just clicked.
Yeah, we got along really well.
When, if ever, did that band become kind of like your full-time job?
I mean, I always have bartended to supplement my income. And I tried to quit a number of times, and, I tried to quit. I'm still trying to fucking quit.
But the band was your main focus creatively for a good solid decade or so, right? Like,
for sure. I mean, but at the same time, there was Five Style going. We had Isotope 217, and other sort of sessions with people. There was a lot of sessions at the time, just house sessions. People would get together and just play. A lot of different improvising musicians were like trying to learn how to play jazz or whatever was going on at the time. So it was super exciting time in Chicago. Yeah.
What sparked your desire to have all these separate projects going on?
Yeah, I think Isotope came out of just a group of people who, and we would have sessions at different people's house. Jeff would be there. Often Matt Lux would be there. Dan Bitney. A lot of sessions were kind of going on at Dan's Bitney's house. And then we decided to try to have just a regular session at a bar. So we asked the people at the Rainbow Club if we could just play like every Monday from like 8 to 11.
When you were doing that, did you ever feel like beholden to any kind of jazz tradition, or feel like you had to do it the right way, or were you confident enough to just find your own way?
I think a little bit of all of that, improvising is a weird thing because there is a tradition of it coming from a certain angle, mm-hmm. or different angles,
Right.
There's like, a lot of free jazz. There's sort of like the jammy kind of like more rock approach or whatever. The stuff that Miles was doing, like that was, I think that was a real influence on us at the time. Sort of like 70s era Miles, funk rock or whatever, jazz. So all of that. I think it's taken me like, 20 plus years to and still trying to figure it out, how to, turn off the chatter in my head while the music is happening, because like it's like often like this dialogue, like, sort of like, what's happening? What, and it works best when I'm able to sort of like shut that down and just be able to be open to whatever's going to happen.
How do you shut it down?
Practice. Practicing just like not holding on to it, just practicing like just and not judging yourself about it.
It almost sounds like mindfulness meditation.
It is like that.
Yeah,
for sure.
But you feel like you've become better at turning off the noise?
I do feel like that.
That's awesome. How old are your kids?
10 and 6.
And so since having your kids, do you feel like your approach to music has changed?
I don't know. I haven't made a conscious change.
Okay. Have you had to scale back the amount of touring you do since you had the kids?
Well, yes and no. I think that Jeff had his daughter a couple of years before I had my oldest boy, and at sort of right around the same time, John started Soma,
the studio.
So it was sort of, it wasn't, I don't think it was like a conscious, like, let's stop touring because there are children.
It just seems like everybody was entering a new phase of life.
Yeah. John had a studio to run, so he needed to be in Chicago more, because if he wasn't there, the studio wasn't making any money. I think he really wanted to pursue a career as a recording engineer. Jeff and I had families, and so things just kind of naturally slowed down.
You work as a tattoo artist too, correct?
I do.
Is that your main job out here in LA?
No.
No. Okay. How did you get into that? Did you ever tattoo customers at the bar?
For sure, yes. I mean, at the bar?
Like people that knew you from the bar?
Yes, of course, yeah.
Did they ever come over like right after the bar closed? And
I did some like stupid drunken tattooing like until 6 a.m. kind of things.
So how often do you tattoo other people these days?
I work at it's an appointment only spot in Silver Lake, run by this really amazing and legendary tattooer named Eddie Deutsch, who was kind of like a Ed Hardy protege, opened and was one of the founding owners of Tattoo City, opened the shop with Ed Hardy and Freddie Corbin and Dan Higgs.
Would you enjoy it if you got really busy doing tattoos, or is it more special that it's kind of by appointment only once in a while?
I like it more like that. I really want to focus on playing music,
Hey folks, this week we here at the Trap Set are thrilled to welcome a new sponsor, Gretsch Drums. For 130 years, Gretsch has crafted drums for some of the greatest drummers of all time across all genres. We're talking everyone from Elvin Jones to Levon Helm, from Phil Collins to Episode 1 guest Brendan Canty, from Cindy Blackman to upcoming guest Danny Frankel. The list goes on and on. Now, the family-owned company has brought back its legendary round badge and broadcaster lines so that you can get that great Gretsch sound at a reasonable price. Check out the full line at GretschDrums.com. And now, back to the show.
How do you feel about where you're at right now as a drummer?
Needs improvement.
So what do you do specifically to
Under
improve?
construction.
What do you like have specific practices? What's the strategy?
I'm super winging it. But I'm trying to play every day. Sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's 4 hours. But I also and I'm hoping that I can just get more work. I'm looking to play with more people. Los Angeles is much different than Chicago in the way that the creative, or at least from what I can gather, than the creative and improvised music scene in Chicago. I feel like there are multiple places to play and a real strong community of people who would support the gigs, and I don't know that I've found that here yet, but I feel like I'm still meeting people. The city seems really new to me still, it's kind of like this city you have to go and dig and find stuff. It doesn't invite you really, like Chicago is sort of like, oh yeah, you play, come on, oh, we're gonna have a session, come on, let's have a session, and then it was just like that. And maybe it's because I'm not 25 and I'm 48 and I got 2 kids, and
where do you want it to be? I mean, do you just want to be more busy and playing every night?
Yeah, I want to I would like to be just playing every night or not, I don't know, but it's funny because I'm never really been good at like hustling myself or like pitching myself, so I always kind of took things as they came naturally. So I don't know. Maybe I would be playing a lot more if I was more of a self-promoter. But I'm okay with the growth and the way that things are going, and I'm not stressing about it. I feel like it's coming along nicely and easily, and I don't want to push myself in a way that feels uncomfortable to me. I want things to sort of progress naturally, and I think that's starting to happen here. I feel good about it.
Well, I think that's a good place to end it.
Okay.
John, thanks for being here.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
The Trap Set is produced by me, Joe Wong, along with Chris Karwowski, who also edits the program. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Trap Set. And visit our website, thetrapset.net, to subscribe to our show for free. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please donate to our show. If you can't afford to donate, please tell a friend and give us a good rating on iTunes.
Send your thoughts, questions, and guest requests to thetrapset@gmail.com.